I really want to thank all the volunteers whose work went into putting these scorecards together. I'm not even going to try to name them all because I will leave someone out, but an incredible amount of research and work went into this. So I know that you all know this, but I'll just reiterate it that we know that voting is not going to lead to the liberation of Palestine. It is one tool that we can leverage to do what Jessica was talking about, to lobby and advocate our MPs and our MP candidates to make meaningful changes towards the liberation of Palestine. So I'll quote what Laura often says is that elections are a chance to choose our political opponents. And so the scorecards are designed to help us do that. I'm drawing on slides that we used at an elections teach-in that we co-hosted with the Palestinian Youth Movement last week. And there will be some updates to the scorecards that I will tell you, but will not be visually represented yet. I'm sure you all know about the Palestine platform, so I won't reiterate it here. But if you haven't signed the Palestine Pledge yet, please go and do that now. Okay. So this is a nonpartisan campaign, which means that we're not endorsing any candidates, but the scorecards are designed to share information to people so that they understand where candidates stand on issues relevant to Palestinian liberation, and they can then use this information to help them make their voting decisions. The platform has been endorsed by Palestinian solidarity groups across Canada. So we've also been sharing these scorecards on social media, so you can share them in that way, or there's a website, which I think Jessica will drop in the chat at some point, that has the scorecards and a lot of the information that I'm going to go over today. First, I want to start by talking just about the legend and what you see here. The slide we're looking at now is the party stances. And these party stances we took from the Votes Against Genocide campaign, and you can visit their website for more information on how they came up with these scores. But I want to explain the symbols. So the red X indicates negative actions or things that are actively harmful for Palestine. The exclamation point indicates weak actions, and these are limited in their ability to affect change, or sometimes they might be taken up for optics, or maybe the party or the candidate. It doesn't seem like they are really standing behind the issues. The black dash indicates silence, and then the green exclamation point is a positive Oh, sorry. The exclamation point is a moderate action. Um, the star is a positive action, so impactful, meaningful changes towards Palestine. Um, the rankings that our scorecards have were done collaboratively through conversation, and all of our visuals are backed up by evidence. So the amazing research team drew together research, have citations, have links, have evidence to support what we're saying here. And we're also really drawing on the hard work of our volunteers who go to events, who talk to candidates, who talk to MPs, who record those conversations so that there's a record of what they're saying. Okay, I'm going to skip this video and I'm going to talk about our scorecards. So you can see here that we reduced the legend that we use to between weak and moderate actions. And so we're just using positive, weak, negative, and silent. And we also aren't we're thinking about candidates and incumbents in a slightly different way. We do expect more out of incumbents. They have more power being in parliament to make effective changes. We don't expect that someone who's never held public office is going to have the same level of opportunity. And so these are kinds of some of the conversations and deliberations that we had in putting together the scorecards. So let me talk a little bit here about Cambridge. So you see here that Brian May, as part of the Liberal Party, has an actively harmful X here. And this indicates that he is engaging in actions that are negative for Palestine. So, like other Liberal MPs, he has failed to acknowledge that the that arms sales to Israel are continuing, even though the government committed to ending exports. And he's also been seen having taken photos. He's taken photos with weapons manufacturers at conferences. So he did this at CanSec in May 2024. So these are some of the reasons that he has these actively harmful ratings. And then you have someone like Lex Burgess, who's the Green Party candidate, who is supportive for Palestine, who has endorsed the Vote Palestine platform. But when you read his statements or if you've engaged with him at events, he tends to stick to the Green Party line and he doesn't individualize statements. So he says, of course, I support Palestine. Let me tell you what the Green Party is doing. And so there's that lack of personal connection and personal advocacy behind some of the statements, which is why he has some weak ratings. I also cannot see the chat. So Jessica, for some reason, I can only see you. So if there's something, a question, you'll have to raise it for
I'll
me.
let you know.
Okay. Kitchener Center. Mike Morris is the only individual with a positive rating. And here too, you can see that for many of the candidates, their position is going to be different than that of the overall party rating. So I won't spend a lot of time on Kitchener Center, except to say there's been a lot of statements. And again, Brian Adeba, the Liberal candidate, is one of these people who just reiterates the party platform when asked whether or not he supports Palestine. Okay, Kitchener-Conestoga. Again, Jessica said you already mentioned that this was a place where Neighbors for Palestine had a success in advocating to Tim Lewis to keep Palestine on the front of the political agenda and to end the arms embargo and work towards ending the genocide. And so he has a much more positive rating than his party in this respect. Um, Yeah. Maya Bozer, actually, I'm not sure how to say Maya's last name. The NDP candidate, again, has made public supports and statements in favor of Palestine, has been active on social media, sharing her endorsement of the Vote Palestine platform, but relatively weak. We couldn't find as much information about actions that she's taken. And so there, sometimes the public statements versus actions can be it was a conversation we had, what counted as a statement, what counted as an action. But just making a public statement isn't enough. Just posting on social media is not enough to be indicative of actions that are taken. Okay, I'll go on to Kitchener South Hespeler. And this is one where I have some amendments to make after I walk through some of these other rankings. So Valerie Bradford has a negative rating. So again, like other Liberal candidates, she doesn't recognize the way in which Canada is still complicit in exporting arms to Israel, indirectly through the US or through open permits that haven't been closed. She also took a trip to Israel that was funded by the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, which often lobbies in support of the illegal settlements. And so that's another reason why she has an X there. Um, Ethan Russell, the Green candidate, did endorse the platform, has made public statements of Palestine, but similar to some other candidates, doesn't seem to have taken any actions. So does support Palestine and has shared that in public forums, but hasn't actively done anything. So the amendment that I'm going to make to this is that Lauren Bruce has made positive public statements in support of Palestine. So some of our volunteers have spoken with him at different events. Specifically, there was a town hall in Kitchener South Hespeler last week, a candidates forum, and one of our volunteers asked a question of all the candidates, and Lauren had an emphatic yes that he supports a two-way arms embargo. And then I also this is on YouTube on the Citizens for Cambridge website, and just I can send you a link when I'm not so got so much going on my screen here. But I did write down a quotation that he made at that event. And so this was in response. So he was the first person that answered the question, said yes, emphatically, he supported a two-way arms embargo. During the conversation, Matt Strauss said something like, well, I'm not a geopolitical expert, so I don't really want to weigh in on what's happening, but I'm for peace. And so what I'm about to read to you was Lauren responding to Matt's statement. And so Lauren said this: it doesn't take rocket science to point out what's obvious in front of us, what we see. That is wrong. That is wrong on a basic human level. What we see in Gaza is wrong. So they're commenting on the ongoing genocide. Okay, and Waterloo is our last scorecard. So here you'll see that the Green and the NDP candidates have been quite strong. And here's an example where we have two candidates who don't hold public office who have taken positive actions to support Palestine. So, for example, Helene Chow, she shows up at events. She was at our teach-in last week. She's been to events making signs that can go to rallies. She's supported, attended, been at rallies, hosted on university campuses. And so these are actions that actively support Palestine. And similarly, Simon Guthrie shows up at events, educates himself. He attended the No Other Land screening, and he recently, over the weekend, published a blog post, which you can find on his website, responding to detractors about the Vote Palestine platform and some criticism that he'd received personally. And he published a public blog post responding to why the Vote Palestine platform is important. So so that might be an example of a public statement, but positive. And Helene actively sharing not just her endorsement of the platform, but why it's important. She's very focused on the issue. And you can tell this if you go to her social media and watch her videos. She's not saying, hey, look at me, I endorse this. She's saying, this is really important. We need to take action to have an arms embargo to end support for illegal settlements and so forth. Um, okay. I th think that's all I have to say about Waterloo. I will just reiterate who has explicitly called for a two-way arms embargo. This is part of the Vote Palestine platform, so in some sense, anyone who signed it has called for it. But in more explicit statements, in Waterloo, Helene Chow and Simon Guthrie have called for a two-way arms embargo. In Kitchener Center, Mike Morris. In Kitchener-Conestoga, Tim Lewis. In Cambridge, Jose de Lima and Lux Burgess. And in Kitchener South Hespeler, at least in that candidates forum, Lauren Bruce also said yes, he supports a two-way arms embargo. So I will end there. And if anyone has questions, I will attempt to answer them.